My name is Grant Williams, and this is the story of how a parking lot fender bender destroyed my marriage and rebuilt my life. It started with a simple dent in my bumper and ended with video evidence that no lawyer could argue with. Sometimes the truth hits you harder than any car accident ever could. I've always been a creature of habit. Every morning at 6:15, I'd kiss Emma goodbye, grab my coffee, and drive the same route to my construction management office in the industrial district outside Denver. Emma would leave an hour later for her position in human resources at Presbyterian Medical Center downtown. We'd been married 9 years, together for 11, and we'd built what everyone considered a solid life. Our friends used to joke that we were the most organized couple they knew. Emma with her color-coded calendars and my project timelines that rarely shifted by more than a day. We understood each other's work demands. Construction projects don't wait for convenience, and hospitals never sleep. When one of us had to work late, the other just adjusted. No drama, no accusations. Just two professionals supporting each other's careers. That was before Blake Torres entered our lives. I first heard his name about 18 months ago, right around the time Emma started staying late more often. She'd come home energized, talking about the new compliance director who was revolutionizing their training protocols. Blake this, Blake that. The man was apparently single-handedly dragging their department into the 21st century. He's got some really innovative ideas about continuing education, Emma would say, picking at her reheated dinner. The old system was completely outdated. Blake's designing these comprehensive programs that'll actually make a difference. I'd nod and ask follow-up questions because that's what supportive husbands do. Emma had always been ambitious, and if this Blake character was helping her grow professionally, good for her. I knew how important career advancement was to her. She'd talked about making supervisor within 3 years, maybe department head within 5. Blake's training programs seemed to be part of that trajectory. The pattern started gradually. Tuesday and Thursday evenings became sacred for compliance seminars. Weekend conferences in Colorado Springs or Fort Collins. Mandatory training sessions that ran past 9 p.m. Emma would apologize profusely, explain how crucial these sessions were for her advancement, and I'd just tell her to do what she needed to do. I hate that these run so late, she'd say, gathering her materials Thursday evening. But Blake says the hospital administration is really impressed with our participation rates. This could really open doors for me. Don't worry about it, I'd reply, already pulling ingredients for my own dinner. Text me when you're heading home so I know you're safe. She'd kiss my cheek, grab her purse, and I'd watch her blue Subaru disappear down our street. Then I'd settle in for another evening of project plans and Netflix, telling myself that successful marriages required sacrifice and flexibility. Looking back, I should have paid more attention to the details. How Emma started taking longer showers when she got home from these sessions. How she'd check her phone during dinner and quickly flip it face down when I glanced over. How she'd developed a sudden interest in new restaurants I'd never heard of. Blake mentioned this great little place in Highlands, she'd say. We should try it sometime. Sure, I'd agree. Make reservations for this weekend. Oh, I'm actually tied up this weekend. Another conference in Boulder. Rain check? There was always another conference, another training session, another opportunity that required her presence elsewhere. But Emma was glowing with professional satisfaction, getting recognition at work, talking about promotion possibilities. I convinced myself that a temporary imbalance in our routine was worth her career success. The irony is that my own schedule played perfectly into their hands. Construction project management means unpredictable hours depending on weather, deliveries, and client demands. When I texted Emma that I'd be working late, she'd text back with variations of, "No problem, I'm stuck in training anyway." We were like ships passing in the night, except one of us was navigating by false stars. My office sits in a sprawling business complex with shared parking across several lots. Our building houses 3 construction firms, a logistics company, and a small accounting practice. The parking situation is barely controlled chaos. No assigned spaces, just painted lines and hope. I'd learned to park in the back corner where there's less traffic and fewer chances of door dings. Thursday, October 10th changed everything. I'd been working late on a project timeline for a downtown renovation when my phone buzzed around 6:30. Emma's usual Thursday training text, "Running late tonight. Don't wait up. Love you." I finished my work, packed up my laptop, and walked out to the parking lot under the security lights. That's when I saw it. A fresh dent in my rear bumper and a note tucked under my windshield wiper. "I saw who hit your car. I have dashcam footage. Call me." Lisa, followed by a phone number. My first reaction was gratitude. Hit-and-run accidents are insurance nightmares without witnesses. I pulled out my phone and called immediately. "Hello?" A woman's voice, professional but cautious. "Hi, this is Grant Williams. You left a note about my car being hit?" "Oh yes, the silver Ford. Hold on." I heard papers shuffling. "I'm Lisa Parker. I work security for the building complex across the street. My dash cam captured the whole thing around 5:45. Do you want to meet tomorrow to see the footage?" "Absolutely. Can we meet in the morning?" "Actually, would afternoon work better? I've got the early shift tomorrow. There's a coffee shop on Colfax near the King Soopers. Say 3 o'clock?" "Perfect. And Lisa? Thank you. You have no idea how much this helps." "Well," she paused, "let's meet first. There's more to discuss than just the hit and run." That should have been my first clue. The way she said, "more to discuss," with a tone I couldn't quite place. But I was focused on the practical problem. Getting my car repaired, dealing with insurance, finding the hit-and-run driver. I had no idea that Lisa Parker was about to hand me evidence that would unravel my entire marriage. Friday afternoon, I drove to the coffee shop in a decent mood. The repair estimate wouldn't be terrible, insurance would likely cover most of it, and I'd have video proof of the other driver's fault. Simple problems with simple solutions. Lisa was easy to spot. A woman in her 50s wearing a security company polo shirt, sitting at a corner table with a laptop bag beside her. She waved when I approached. "Grant Williams?" "That's me. Thanks again for doing this." We shook hands and I sat down. Lisa had already ordered coffee and was drumming her fingers nervously on the table. She seemed anxious, which struck me as odd for someone who dealt with parking lot incidents professionally. "So you caught the hit and run on camera?" I asked. "I did. Motion-activated dashcam system. We monitor the lot for security purposes." She opened her laptop and pulled up a file. "But Grant, before I show you this, I need to ask about your wife." My coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. "My wife? Emma Foster Williams, blue Subaru Outback. She's your wife, right?" A chill ran through my chest. "How do you know my wife's name?" Lisa's expression was pained. "Because she's in the video too, after the hit and run. And I don't think you're going to like what you see." The coffee shop suddenly felt too warm. "What do you mean she's in the video?" "Grant, I'm really sorry. I debated whether to tell you, but if someone was cheating on my husband, I'd want to know." She turned the laptop screen toward me. "This is from last night. about 20 minutes after the hit and run. The video was crystal clear, high-definition color with timestamps in the corner. I could see my silver car with the fresh damage, other vehicles in the lot, people walking to their cars. Normal parking lot activity. Then at 6:10 p.m., Emma's blue Subaru pulled into the frame. "That's Emma's car," I said, though my voice sounded hollow. "Keep watching." Emma got out of the passenger side. The passenger side. A tall man with dark hair emerged from the driver's seat, and even from across the parking lot the camera captured them clearly. He was wearing scrubs, probably coming off shift from somewhere. They met at the front of the car. And then they kissed. Not a friendly peck or professional goodbye. A deep, intimate kiss between two people who knew each other very well. The kind of kiss shared by lovers, not colleagues. They held hands walking toward a building I didn't recognize. 20 minutes later, they returned to the car. More kissing. The man's hands on Emma's waist, her fingers in his hair. Then they got back in the car, Emma in the driver's seat this time, and drove away. The timestamp showed 6:47 p.m. Emma had texted me about running late at 6:30. I stared at the screen long after the video ended. Lisa sat quietly, giving me time to process what I'd just seen. "How long have you been recording this lot?" I finally asked. "About 2 years. The business owners installed the system after a series of break-ins. I monitor multiple angles, but this camera has the clearest view of that section." "Have you seen them before?" Lisa nodded. "That's why I recognized your wife when you mentioned her name during our phone call. They meet every Tuesday and Thursday like clockwork. Always the same pattern. He drives, they go into that building for about 20 minutes, then she drives home." Tuesday and Thursday. Emma's compliance training nights. "What building is that?" I managed to ask. "Executive suites. Short-term office rentals, conference rooms, that kind of thing. Discreet location. Private parking." My hands were shaking as I reached for my phone. Emma had texted me 2 hours ago. "Still in training, home by 9, dinner meeting ran over." It was 3:15 p.m. on Friday afternoon. According to her calendar, she should be at work, but the pattern was becoming clear. "Lisa, I need copies of this video. Can you provide the original files with metadata intact?" "Already done." She handed me a flash drive. "Complete files from the security system. Timestamps, metadata, everything. I also included the hit-and-run footage you originally called about." I pocketed the drive like it was made of plutonium. "Grant, I'm really sorry, but I thought you should know." "You did the right thing." I stood up on unsteady legs. "Thank you for telling me. If you need anything else, call me. And Grant, whatever you decide to do, that video is legally admissible. Public parking lot, no expectation of privacy." I drove home in a fog, my brain cycling through 18 months of Emma's schedule changes, her enthusiasm about Blake's training programs, her new interest in restaurants I'd never visited. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, she'd been 15 minutes from our house, in the arms of another man. That evening, Emma came home at exactly 9 o'clock, just as she'd promised. She kissed my cheek, apologized for the long day, and started telling me about the fascinating presentation on compliance documentation. "Blake really outdid himself tonight," she said, pulling leftovers from the refrigerator. "The new tracking system he's implementing is going to save us hours of paperwork." I watched her heat up her dinner, noting how she'd freshened her lipstick and how her hair looked recently brushed. Details I'd never questioned before now seemed glaringly obvious. "How was the rest of your day?" she asked, settling beside me on the couch. "Interesting. Got the estimate for my car repair." Oh, right, the hit and run. Any luck finding the other driver? Actually, yes. A witness came forward with video footage. Emma's fork paused midway to her mouth. Video footage? High-definition dashcam. Caught the whole thing. I watched her face carefully. Amazing what technology captures these days. That's great news. Should make the insurance claim simple. Should make everything simple, I agreed. That weekend, I told Emma I needed to catch up on some project work and spent both days researching Blake Torres. LinkedIn showed he'd joined Presbyterian Medical Center as compliance director 18 months ago, exactly when Emma's schedule had started changing. His profile listed a background in healthcare regulation, previous positions at hospitals in Phoenix and Salt Lake City. I cross-referenced his professional history with Emma's travel schedule. Every mandatory conference she'd attended aligned perfectly with Blake's own travel calendar. When Emma had gone to the Colorado Healthcare Compliance Summit in Colorado Springs, Blake's LinkedIn showed him speaking at that exact event. When she'd attended emergency training in Fort Collins, Blake had posted photos from a restaurant in Fort Collins that same evening. The evidence was overwhelming, but I needed to be methodical. If Emma had been having an affair for 18 months, there would be financial records, hotel expenses, restaurant charges, travel costs. Money leaves trails that video evidence can support in court. I spent Sunday evening going through our shared credit card statements and bank records, something Emma had always encouraged in the name of financial transparency. What I found made my stomach turn. Charges to hotels in Colorado Springs and Fort Collins on weekends when Emma claimed to be at conferences. Expensive dinners at restaurants neither of us had ever mentioned. Wine purchases on Thursday evenings when Emma supposedly attended training sessions. Parking fees in downtown areas where no compliance training occurred. The most damning evidence was a recurring charge to Executive Conference Solutions, the same building where Lisa's dashcam had captured Emma and Blake's intimate encounters. The charges went back 14 months, appearing every other week like clockwork. Emma had been using our joint account to fund her affair. By Sunday night, I had a choice to make. I could confront Emma directly, demand explanations, and hope for honest answers. Or I could gather enough evidence to protect myself legally and financially before having that conversation. I chose the second option. Monday morning, I took a personal day and called Patricia Walsh, a divorce attorney whose billboards I'd seen around Denver. Her office could see me at 10 a.m. Patricia Walsh was exactly what you'd expect from someone who advertised on billboards: sharp, direct, and expensive-looking. Her corner office overlooked downtown Denver, and she had the bearing of someone who'd seen every possible variation of marital disaster. "Mr. Williams, what brings you in today?" I handed her the flash drive. "My wife is having an affair. I have video evidence and financial records." Patricia raised an eyebrow as she plugged in the drive. "Video evidence is unusual. How did you obtain this?" I explained about the hit and run, Lisa's dashcam system, and the accidental discovery. Patricia watched the footage twice, taking notes. "This is very clear evidence," she said. "Public location, no expectation of privacy, properly authenticated metadata. Colorado is a no-fault divorce state, but adultery can affect property division, especially if marital assets were used to facilitate the affair." "What do you mean?" "If your wife spent joint funds on hotel rooms, meals, or other expenses related to her affair, that's considered dissipation of marital assets. The court can award you a larger share of remaining assets to compensate for money wasted on the affair. Patricia pulled up Colorado statutes on her computer. Under CRS paragraph 14-10-113, economic misconduct during marriage affects equitable distribution. If you can document how much marital money was spent on this affair, the court will likely award you compensation. I showed her the credit card statements and hotel receipts. Patricia's expression grew more interested as she reviewed the evidence. Mr. Williams, this is remarkably well documented. Most people come in with suspicions and vague evidence. You have video proof, financial records, and a clear timeline. How much money are we talking about? I'd calculated the numbers over the weekend. Approximately $12,000 over 14 months. Hotel rooms, restaurants, travel expenses, conference registration fees for events she never attended. That's significant dissipation. Colorado courts take economic misconduct seriously. Patricia closed the laptop and leaned back. Here's what I recommend. Gather any remaining evidence quietly, then present your wife with the option for uncontested divorce. If she agrees to fair property division that accounts for the dissipated funds, we can expedite the process. If she contests anything, this video evidence gives us enormous leverage. What kind of evidence should I still gather? Phone records, if you have access. Any other documentation of lies about her whereabouts. Social media posts that contradict her claimed activities. But honestly, what you have is already compelling. Most cases don't have smoking gun evidence like this. I left Patricia's office with a retainer agreement and a plan. Gather the remaining evidence this week, then confront Emma next Thursday, exactly 1 week after Lisa's video was recorded. The symbolism felt appropriate. Tuesday evening, Emma followed her usual pattern. Training session tonight, she announced, gathering her materials. Blake's doing a deep dive into the new HIPAA compliance requirements. How late will you be? Probably 9:30. These sessions run long, but they're so valuable. I watched her drive away, knowing she was heading to her secret rendezvous with Blake Torres. Instead of feeling angry, I felt oddly calm. The uncertainty was over. The lies were documented. Soon, the truth would be impossible to deny. Wednesday, I hired Kevin Murphy, a private investigator that Patricia had recommended. Kevin specialized in marital cases and had experience with surveillance documentation that would hold up in court. I don't need you to prove the affair, I told Kevin over the phone. I have that evidence. I need you to document the scope. How long it's been going on. Whether there are other instances, anything that shows a pattern of deception. Kevin reviewed Lisa's footage and my financial documentation. This is solid evidence, he said. What I can do is run background checks, verify timeline information, maybe get some social media intelligence. Sometimes people leave digital trails they don't realize. Do it. I want everything documented before I confront her. How much time do I have? 1 week. That's plenty. Most cheating spouses aren't nearly as careful as they think they are. Kevin was right. By Friday, he'd compiled a comprehensive report that painted an even clearer picture of Emma's deception. Social media analysis showed that Emma and Blake had been liking each other's posts for 2 years, well before their affair allegedly began. Location data from public posts revealed they'd been in the same cities during multiple business trips that Emma had claimed were solo conferences. Most damaging was Kevin's discovery of a second credit card, one Emma had opened individually using her maiden name. The statements, which Kevin accessed through public record searches, showed additional hotel and restaurant charges going back even further than our joint account revealed. Emma hadn't just been having an affair for 18 months. She'd been planning it systematically for almost 2 years. Thursday evening arrived with the weight of inevitability. I'd spent the week watching Emma maintain her normal routine, listening to her lies about Blake's training sessions, observing her casual deceptions with the clarity that only comes from absolute certainty. "Another late night tonight," Emma announced, kissing my cheek as she gathered her purse. "Blake's running a special session on risk assessment protocols." "Take your time," I replied. "I'll probably work late myself." She paused at the door. "Everything okay? You seem distant this week." "Just tired, big project deadlines." "Well, don't wait up. This might run until 10. I watched her blue Subaru disappear down our street one final time. Then I opened my laptop, connected it to our television, and loaded Lisa's video file. I wanted everything ready for when Emma returned home from her training session. At exactly 9:47 p.m., I heard Emma's key in the front door. She called out her usual greeting, "Honey, I'm home." "In the living room," I called back. Emma appeared in the doorway, looking professionally exhausted in the way she'd perfected over 18 months of deception. Her hair was slightly disheveled, her lipstick refreshed, her cheeks flushed from what she'd claim was a long training session. "How was risk assessment training?" I asked. "Exhausting. Blake really pushed us tonight. New federal requirements are incredibly complex." She settled into her usual spot on the couch beside me. "But I feel like I'm really growing professionally. These sessions are challenging, but they're preparing me for leadership roles." I nodded sympathetically. "That sounds valuable. Blake seems like an effective trainer." "He really is. I'm lucky to work with someone so dedicated to professional development." Emma reached for the remote control, probably intending to browse Netflix while she unwound from her fictional training session. Instead, I picked up my laptop. "Actually, Emma, I have something interesting to show you. Remember that hit and run in my parking lot last week?" "Of course. Did the insurance company need more information?" "No, they got everything they needed from the video evidence." I opened the laptop and clicked play. The witness had a dash cam that captured everything. Emma leaned forward, interested despite herself. "Really? Did they catch the other driver?" "They caught more than that." The video began with my damaged car, the timestamp clearly showing 5:45 p.m. Emma watched casually as the silver sedan backed into my bumper and drove away. "Wow, what a jerk," she said. "At least you have proof. Keep watching." The timestamp advanced to 6:10 p.m., and Emma's blue Subaru entered the frame. I watched Emma's face carefully as she saw herself getting out of the passenger side of her own car. Her expression shifted from casual interest to confusion to dawning horror. Blake Torres emerged from the driver's seat in his medical scrubs, and they met at the front of the car for their intimate kiss. Emma's face went white. "Grant, I can explain." "Can you? Because this is fascinating." According to the timestamp, this was recorded last Thursday at 6:10 p.m. But you texted me at 6:30 saying you were running late from training. On screen, Emma and Blake were walking hand in hand toward the executive suites building. Emma beside me sat frozen, staring at her own betrayal playing out in high definition. "Where did this come from?" she whispered. "A witness. Security camera from across the street. Motion activated, high definition, with metadata authentication." I paused the video. "The same witness system that caught your Tuesday meetings, by the way." Emma's hands were shaking. "Grant, please. Let me explain. I'm listening. Explain how compliance training involves kissing Blake Torres in a parking lot. The video continued with Emma and Blake returning to the car 20 minutes later, their second round of kissing clearly visible. Emma watched herself caress Blake's face with an expression of absolute devastation. "It's not what it looks like," she said weakly. "It looks like you're having an affair with your colleague. Am I wrong?" Emma's composure cracked completely. Tears started flowing as the weight of undeniable evidence overwhelmed her capacity for continued deception. "Grant, I never meant for this to happen. Blake and we started as colleagues, but he understands my career goals in a way that I don't? No, that's not what I meant." Emma was crying openly now. "He's been mentoring me, helping me develop professionally, and somewhere along the way, feelings developed." Feelings. For 18 months. How did you know it was 18 months? I showed her Kevin's investigation report, the credit card statements, the hotel receipts, the timeline correlation between Blake's travel schedule and her fake conferences. "Emma, I know about executive conference solutions. I know about the secondary credit card. I know about Colorado Springs, Fort Collins, every restaurant you visited with Blake while lying to me about training sessions." Her tears turned to sobs. "You hired an investigator?" "I hired a lawyer first. The investigator came second." I closed the laptop. "Emma, I have 2 years of documented evidence. Video proof, financial records, witness testimony. Your affair isn't a suspicion or accusation. It's a legal fact." Emma looked around our living room like she was seeing it for the first time. "What are you going to do?" "I'm filing for divorce Monday morning. You can pack whatever you need tonight. The rest will divide through attorneys." "Grant, please. Can we try counseling? I'll end things with Blake immediately. I'll do anything to save our marriage." I'd anticipated this moment, this final plea for reconciliation. 3 days ago, the request might have carried some emotional weight. But watching Emma lie effortlessly about her evening activities, seeing her craft elaborate stories about Blake's training sessions while knowing exactly where she'd spent the past 4 hours, had crystallized something important. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a systematic pattern of deception involving financial fraud, emotional manipulation, and professional misconduct. Emma hadn't just cheated. She'd rebuilt our entire marriage on a foundation of lies. "Emma, you've been lying to me every Tuesday and Thursday for 18 months. You've used our joint money to fund hotel rooms for your affair. You've invented a parallel universe of fake compliance training to cover your tracks." I stood up. "This isn't a mistake. This is a choice you've made consistently for almost 2 years. But I love you. Blake was just what? A mistake. Because according to this evidence, Blake is the reason you started planning your exit from our marriage 2 years ago." Emma looked stricken. "What do you mean?" I showed her Kevin's social media analysis, the timeline of when she'd first started interacting with Blake online, the pattern of financial preparation that suggested long-term planning rather than impulsive behavior. "You didn't fall into this affair, Emma. You constructed it. Methodically. With full knowledge of the consequences." Emma's sobs intensified, but I felt nothing. 18 months of gaslighting had immunized me against her tears. Every time I'd asked about her late nights, she'd made me feel guilty for questioning her professional dedication. Every time I'd suggested we coordinate our schedules better, she'd made me feel selfish for not supporting her career growth. The manipulation had been as systematic as the affair itself. "Pack your things," I said. "You can stay at a hotel tonight, or with Blake, or wherever you want. But you can't stay here. Grant, please, just give me one more chance. Emma, you've had 447 chances, every Tuesday and Thursday for 18 months. You've used all your chances. She stared at me, perhaps realizing for the first time that I'd moved beyond anger into something more final. You've really thought this through. I've had a week to think about it. The same week you spent lying to my face about Blake's training sessions. Emma wiped her eyes and stood up slowly. Can I ask how much this will cost me? Your affair cost our marriage about $12,000 in dissipated assets. Colorado law allows me to recover that from the property division. And the video? Is admissible evidence in divorce proceedings. Public location, no expectation of privacy, authenticated metadata. Emma nodded, perhaps finally understanding that her situation was legally hopeless. I'll pack a bag. Take your time, I'll be in the kitchen. I left Emma to gather her belongings and walked to the kitchen, where I poured myself a glass of wine and sat at our breakfast table. Through the window, I could see the street where Emma had driven away hundreds of times, heading to her secret meetings with Blake Torres. Soon, she'd drive away one final time, heading to whatever life she'd been planning for the past 2 years. 20 minutes later, Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway with a suitcase and her laptop bag. Her eyes were red, but she'd stopped crying. I'll call you tomorrow about logistics, she said. Call my attorney, Patricia Walsh. I handed her a business card. All communication goes through her from now on. Emma looked at the card, then at me. Grant, I really am sorry. I know that doesn't matter now, but I need you to know that. I believe you're sorry you got caught. I'm sorry I hurt you. If you were sorry about hurting me, you would have stopped after the first Tuesday, or the 10th, or the 50th. Emma had no response to that. She kissed my cheek one final time, whispered, "Goodbye," and walked out of our kitchen. I heard the front door close, then the sound of her car starting in the driveway. I sat at the kitchen table for another hour, not thinking about Emma or Blake or divorce proceedings. Instead, I thought about Lisa Parker, who'd struggled with whether to tell a stranger that his wife was cheating. Lisa had made a choice to prioritize truth over comfort, justice over convenience. She'd handed me evidence that would change my life forever, knowing it would cause immediate pain but prevent long-term damage. Sometimes the truth comes from unexpected sources. Sometimes a simple act of honesty from a stranger can save your life from years of continued deception. I raised my wine glass toward the window, toasting the woman who'd shown me that my marriage was already over. I just hadn't known it yet. Monday morning, I was waiting outside Patricia Walsh's office when she arrived at 8 a.m. Mr. Williams, I take it the conversation with your wife went as expected? She admitted to the affair and moved out. She wants to try counseling and negotiation. And you? I want to file for divorce immediately. Uncontested if possible, contested if necessary. Patricia reviewed the evidence I'd compiled over the weekend. Additional financial records, Emma's admission on Thursday night, her agreement to move out voluntarily. This is a strong foundation for divorce proceedings, Patricia said. Colorado is no fault, so we don't need to prove adultery for divorce grounds. But the documented dissipation of marital assets gives us substantial leverage for property division. What's the timeline? If Emma agrees to reasonable terms, we could have everything finalized in 60 days. If she contests the dissipation claims or demands an unrealistic property split, it could take 6 months. File today. I want this process started immediately. Patricia prepared the initial paperwork while I sat in her conference room, watching Denver morning traffic through floor-to-ceiling windows. Somewhere in the city, Emma was probably calling in sick to work, trying to process the collapse of her carefully constructed double life. Somewhere else, Blake Torres was probably wondering why his Tuesday-Thursday meetings had suddenly been canceled. By noon, Patricia had filed divorce papers with the Denver County District Court. Emma would be served with papers within 48 hours. "Mr. Williams, one last question," Patricia said as I prepared to leave. "Are you interested in pursuing any action against Blake Torres? Workplace relationships between supervisors and subordinates can create liability issues for employers." I'd considered this possibility over the weekend. Blake Torres was a compliance director, having an affair with someone in his department. Presbyterian Medical Center might be very interested in learning about potential ethics violations and sexual harassment liabilities. What would that accomplish? Potentially, disciplinary action against Blake, possibly affecting his employment. It might also encourage Emma to cooperate with divorce proceedings rather than have her affair become public knowledge at her workplace. File a complaint with Presbyterian Medical Center's Human Resources Department. Send them the video evidence and investigation report. Let them handle it according to their policies. Patricia smiled. That should expedite our negotiations considerably. Tuesday afternoon, Emma called my office directly. "Grant, we need to talk." "You need to talk to Patricia Walsh. I told you that Thursday night." Presbyterian Medical Center just placed Blake on administrative leave pending investigation. They received video evidence of our relationship. "That's unfortunate." "You sent them the video." "My attorney sent them documentation of potential workplace misconduct. What they do with that information is their decision." Emma's voice was strained. "Grant, Blake could lose his job over this. Blake could have thought about that before having an affair with a subordinate." "I wasn't his subordinate. We're in different departments." "Emma, I don't care about Blake's employment situation. I care about finalizing our divorce as quickly and fairly as possible." "What do you want?" "Equitable division of assets, minus the $12,000 you spent on your affair. You keep your retirement account, I keep mine. You keep your car, I keep mine. We sell the house and split the proceeds." "What about spousal support?" "You make $75,000 a year. You don't need spousal support." Emma was quiet for a moment. "And if I agree to these terms?" "Uncontested divorce, finalized in 60 days, minimal legal fees." "And if I don't?" "Contested divorce, depositions, discovery, video evidence presented in open court. Much higher legal fees, much longer timeline, much more public scrutiny of your affair." "Grant, please. Blake's career is already destroyed. Don't drag this through the courts." "Then don't make me drag it through the courts. Sign the settlement agreement." Emma agreed to review Patricia's proposed settlement terms. 2 days later, she signed without modifications. The divorce was finalized on December 15th, exactly 65 days after Lisa Parker had handed me a flash drive that changed my life. Emma moved to Colorado Springs, ostensibly for a fresh start, but probably because Blake Torres had found employment at a hospital there after being terminated from Presbyterian Medical Center. I kept our house after buying out Emma's equity share, minus the $12,000 in affair-related expenses. She kept her retirement savings, her car, and half of our other joint assets. The property division was mathematically fair and legally clean. More importantly, I kept Lisa Parker's video evidence, Not for revenge or future leverage, but as a reminder that truth has a way of revealing itself when people are brave enough to share what they know. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Dr. Jennifer Kim at a coffee shop in Cherry Creek. Jennifer was an emergency physician at Presbyterian Medical Center who'd heard about Emma and Blake's affair through the medical community gossip network. "You're Grant Williams," she said, approaching my table with her coffee. "I heard about what happened with your ex-wife and Blake Torres." Bad news travels fast in medical circles? Faster than good news. Mind if I sit down? I wanted to tell you that most people respected how you handled the situation. Jennifer was attractive in the understated way that comes from being too busy saving lives to worry about perfect makeup. Her conversation was direct, intelligent, and refreshingly honest. "I heard you had video evidence," she continued. "That must have made the divorce process simpler." Simple isn't the word I'd use, but yes, it eliminated most of the ambiguity. Blake tried to claim they were just colleagues when the hospital investigated. Then they saw the video footage. I raised an eyebrow. "They showed you the video?" "Hospital administration showed department heads the evidence during our sexual harassment training update." Professional example of how workplace relationships can create liability. Your ex-wife and Blake were clearly involved romantically. Jennifer's matter-of-fact tone was refreshing after months of legal proceedings and emotional conversations. She talked about Emma and Blake's affair the way she probably discussed patient cases, unfortunate situations that required professional handling. "Are you dating anyone?" she asked suddenly. "Not currently. The divorce was finalized recently." "Would you like to have dinner sometime? I promise not to record it with a dash cam." I laughed. The first genuine laugh I'd had in months. "I'd like that." Jennifer and I started dating casually, which gradually developed into something more serious. She worked emergency medicine schedules, which meant unpredictable hours and genuine workplace emergencies. Unlike Emma's fake training sessions, Jennifer's late nights involved actual medical crises that appeared on hospital logs. The contrast was startling. Jennifer would text me from the hospital. "Multi-car accident just came in. Won't be home until morning." An hour later, local news would report the exact accident Jennifer was treating. Her emergencies were verifiable, her schedule was transparent, and her late nights served purposes other than deceiving her romantic partner. "How do you trust anyone after what happened?" Jennifer asked one evening, 6 months into our relationship. "I verify what can be verified and trust what can't be." That sounds exhausting. Actually, it's liberating. When someone tells me they're working late, I can check if that's plausible. When someone claims to be at a conference, I can verify the conference exists. Basic verification isn't about mistrust. It's about distinguishing truth from fiction. Jennifer nodded thoughtfully. "In emergency medicine, we verify everything. Patient symptoms, medication histories, allergies. We don't assume people are lying, but we confirm information that affects treatment decisions." Exactly. Emma trained me to stop verifying her stories. She called it trusting your partner, when it was really enabling deception. Have you heard anything about Emma and Blake recently? They're living together in Colorado Springs. Blake found work at a smaller hospital with less stringent ethics policies. Emma got a lateral transfer within the Presbyterian system. Do you think they're happy? I considered this question seriously. I think they're experiencing consequences. Blake's career advancement is permanently damaged. Emma's professional reputation in Denver is destroyed. They're together, but they're starting over professionally and financially. Do you feel vindicated? I feel grateful. Grateful that Lisa Parker was brave enough to tell me the truth. Grateful that video evidence eliminated months of gaslighting and manipulation. Grateful that I discovered Emma's deception before wasting more years on a marriage built on lies. 1 year after the divorce, Jennifer and I were engaged. We planned our wedding for the following spring, with full support from friends and family who'd watched my relationship with Emma deteriorate over 2 years of increasing distance and deception. Lisa Parker was invited to the wedding. She'd become an unexpected friend, someone who'd made a difficult moral choice that changed my life for the better. At the reception, I gave a brief toast, thanking the people who'd supported me through difficult times. Sometimes the truth comes from unexpected sources, I said, raising my glass toward Lisa. Sometimes strangers become friends by choosing honesty over comfort. And sometimes the worst thing that happens to you creates space for the best thing to happen next. Jennifer squeezed my hand, and I realized that Emma's betrayal had inadvertently led me to a relationship built on transparency, verification, and mutual respect for truth. The irony wasn't lost on me. Emma had left our marriage seeking something better with Blake Torres. Instead, she'd destroyed 2 careers, damaged her professional reputation, and ended up in a relationship born from deception and sustained by continued lies. Meanwhile, I'd found partnership with someone who understood that trust works best when supported by verification, that love flourishes in the presence of truth, and that the strongest relationships are built on foundations that can withstand scrutiny. 2 years after Lisa Parker handed me that flash drive, I installed a dash cam in my new car. Not because I expected to catch anyone cheating, but because I'd learned that documenting reality protects everyone involved. Truth serves justice. Lies serve only themselves. And sometimes the most important evidence comes from the most unexpected sources. Jennifer laughed when she noticed the dash cam installation. Planning to catch any more cheating spouses? Planning to document whatever happens, I replied. You never know what you might need to verify. The conversation reminded me of something Lisa Parker had said during our initial coffee shop meeting. I saw the hit and run, then noticed the intimate scene. Couldn't unsee it. Sometimes you can't unsee the truth once it's been revealed. But sometimes that's exactly what saves your life from years of continued deception. Sometimes a parking lot witness becomes the person who sets you free from a marriage that was already over. You just hadn't realized it yet. Emma had spent 2 years constructing an elaborate fiction about her feelings, her activities, and her commitment to our marriage. Blake Torres had helped her maintain that fiction while pursuing his own career and romantic interests. Together, they'd created a parallel universe where their affair was justified, sustainable, and secret. Lisa Parker's dash cam had revealed the truth of their relationship in 26 minutes of high-definition video. No amount of explanation or justification could argue with time-stamped footage of Emma kissing Blake Torres in a parking lot while texting me about compliance training delays. The video evidence hadn't just documented their affair, it had exposed the systematic nature of their deception, the financial fraud involved in funding their relationship, and the professional misconduct that had created liability for their employer. Truth had emerged accidentally but completely, revealing not just what Emma and Blake were doing, but who they had chosen to become. Sometimes the truth hits harder than any accident ever could. Sometimes a witness you've never met becomes the person who saves your life from living a lie. And sometimes the worst day of your marriage becomes the first day of your actual life. I kept Lisa's business card in my wallet, not because I expected to need security services, but as a reminder that ordinary people sometimes make extraordinary moral choices that change everything for the better. She'd struggled with whether to tell a stranger about his wife's affair, ultimately deciding that truth served justice better than comfortable ignorance. That choice had cost Emma and Blake their carefully constructed fiction, but had given me the evidence I needed to rebuild my life on a foundation of verified truth rather than convenient lies. Sometimes the witness you need is already watching. Sometimes the evidence you need already exists. And sometimes the parking lot accident that ruins your day becomes the discovery that saves your life. The hit-and-run driver never paid for the damage to my car. Insurance covered the repair costs, and I never pursued criminal charges. But Lisa Parker's decision to tell me about the other thing her camera had captured became the most valuable testimony anyone has ever provided on my behalf. Jennifer and I drove past that parking lot occasionally, usually heading to restaurants or events in the industrial district. The security cameras were still there, still recording whatever happened in those business complex lots. Other people's secrets, other people's deceptions, other people's moments of truth waiting to be discovered by accident or intention. "Do you think about it when we drive past there?" Jennifer asked one evening. "I think about how much time Emma and I wasted pretending our marriage was working when she'd already moved on emotionally. I think about how much energy I spent trying to support her career development when she was really just funding an affair. Do you think they planned it to end this way? I think they planned for it never to end. They thought they could maintain their affair indefinitely while I remained oblivious. They underestimated parking lot surveillance and overestimated their ability to deceive someone who pays attention to details." Jennifer squeezed my hand. "I'm glad you pay attention to details. I'm glad you don't need me to verify your emergency medicine schedule. But I'm also glad that I could verify it if I wanted to. Verification available but not required? Trust supported by verifiable truth. The best of both worlds." We drove home to the house I'd kept after the divorce, the house where Emma and I had built a life based on incomplete information and carefully managed deceptions. Jennifer had moved in 6 months ago, bringing transparency to spaces that had been filled with secrets for too long. No fake training schedules, no mysterious conference calls, no defensive reactions when I asked about work schedules or travel plans. Jennifer's professional life was demanding but honest, complicated but verifiable, challenging but true. The contrast reminded me daily that Emma's affair hadn't just betrayed our marriage vows. It had poisoned the basic communication that makes partnership possible. Every conversation had been filtered through her need to maintain fiction about her feelings and activities. Every discussion of our schedules had been manipulated to create space for her relationship with Blake Torres. I'd been married to someone who was systematically lying about the most fundamental aspects of her life. The training sessions, the conferences, the work emergencies, the career development opportunities. All fiction designed to cover an affair that had consumed 2 years of our lives. Lisa Parker's dashcam had revealed more than adultery. It had exposed the comprehensive nature of Emma's deception and the financial fraud that had funded her affair using our joint assets. The video evidence had been legally powerful because it was emotionally undeniable. 18 months of fake compliance training reduced to 26 minutes of clear footage showing Emma and Blake Torres in an intimate relationship. Patricia Walsh had been right about the legal advantages of video evidence. Emma's attorney had advised her to accept our settlement terms rather than risk having the footage presented in open court during contested divorce proceedings. The threat of public scrutiny had motivated cooperation that might not have existed otherwise. But the personal advantages had been even more significant. The video evidence had eliminated Emma's ability to gaslight me about her activities, to claim that her affair was recent or accidental, or to suggest that our marriage problems were mutual rather than unilateral. The footage had documented objective reality that no amount of emotional manipulation could argue against. Sometimes the truth speaks for itself. Sometimes evidence eliminates the need for explanation, justification, or negotiation. Sometimes 26 minutes of video testimony outweighs 2 years of verbal fiction. And sometimes the worst day of your marriage becomes the first day of your actual life.